The Broncos are being projected to do much more winning this next season than they had last season in terms of preseason projections. The Nuggets and Nikola Jokic made history last night again, and then another Mile High Milestone will be coming. It is your rundown. This is a great day. I'm filling in for Richie Carney today. If you watch Denver Sports Daily, that's where you most likely know me from if you do. But let's get it right into it. The Denver Broncos are being rated much higher than they were last season. Now, if you remember last season, before it started, they were not great. This was a scary time to be a Broncos fan. You were going into it with a rookie quarterback that a lot of people had at a lower ranking on their draft boards. And then, you got all this dead cap money from Russell Wilson. You don't know where that's all going. And then, there's so much strangeness in the air. Sean Payton's only going into his second season. All of this is happening. And the Broncos are rated at a 5.5 win schedule. Basically, that's how many wins that they were projected to have before the season started. 5.5. That was their over-under line. And this season, that line just came out again, and the Broncos are being graded much higher at 10 or 9.5. That's 10 wins. This season, the Broncos did that. They had 10 wins. They won 10 games in this season. There is not a chance that they won't win 10 or more in this upcoming season. I mean, you look at some of the games that they've got coming up. They've got Chiefs. They can beat the Chiefs once. Raiders, they can beat them twice. That's 3 wins right there just in the division. And then there's Jaguars, Titans, Cowboys, Giants, Packers, Colts, Jets. Those are all wins I see as of now. Now, you're not even talking about yet the fact that you've got more home games against some bad teams. The Broncos are being gifted a good schedule this season. They've got some bad teams coming in. Those teams that I just named should be easy wins. And I'm not even mentioning the teams like the Texans. They could beat the Texans. The Bengals are coming to Mile High. I think if you watch this past game, this past season where they played the Bengals, there is not a doubt in my mind that I'm saying the Broncos can go out there and beat the Bengals. I firmly believe that. They can. You watch that Bengals game, they almost did. They had them. They really did. Marvin Mims caught that touchdown, that incredible, I'm going to call it a Hail Mary because it was basically a Hail Mary to send the game to overtime. And you know what? You're gifted 3 shots in overtime and you mess it up. That is on you. The Broncos were gifted that 3 overtime shots and they messed it up. And this team overall has gotten better. They added Evan Ingram. They've got some great pieces on defense. You look at some of the pieces they've got on defense. They've got Hufanga and, they just got Dre Greenlaw. This is going to be a much better team than it was last season. And they're going up against some mid to low tier competition. They can definitely dominate the winning. They're going to win over 10 games. They should be able to. Now, moving on, the Nuggets last night, just incredible play from the Nuggets. It should have been a bigger win. They only won 127-117 against an injured Milwaukee Bucks team. But how much more time can we let pass with Nikola Jokic in the second spot in the MVP race? It's just not fair anymore. This man is doing things that we have never seen before. And you could talk about the triple doubles because sure, we've seen that before. You could talk about the scoring, the assists as a big man. Sure, you could say that, but we've never seen it all in one player. This guy is everything that you need to be. He's the best player in the world and he should be the MVP. And last night he may have proved it. 30 triple doubles. That is where Nikola Jokic is at now. 30 triple doubles, breaking the franchise record for most triple doubles in a season. Do you know who held that record before him? I bet you can guess. Nikola Jokic held the record for most triple doubles in this season with 29, and last night with a 39 point, 10 rebound, 10 assist performance, he broke his own record. Look at those stats. 64% from the field, 50% from 3, plus 14 in the box plus minus. Those are stats that you don't see from not only centers, not only MVPs. You don't see that from anybody. Those are incredible numbers. I've never seen performances like he's put up this season. He had a 30-20-20 game this season, and he's still behind Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in the MVP race. It's just not feasible for that to be possible. It's not possible. It shouldn't be. Now, yesterday, again, huge win. MPJ was a catalyst in that one. 23 points, 10 rebounds, 7 for 9 shooting. And this is the best part of this performance from MPJ. 6 of 8 from 3. MPJ is playing how we need MPJ to play. This is what MPJ was paid for. You go out there, you shoot. You are a shooting wing. That is what you are. A small forward, that's what you're able to do. That's what you're supposed to be able to do. And he lacks some of the other small forward skills on defense. He does. He's not the best defender. He stepped up, to be fair, this season. But his shooting ability is what the offense of this Nuggets team needs. The offense overall for the entire Nuggets squad is incredible. Incredible. They're one of the best, most efficient offenses of all time, honestly, with Nikola Jokic at the helm. And we could talk about it differently if Nikola Jokic is out of the games. We've seen it. It's not great. The offense and the defense isn't great when Nikola Jokic isn't on the floor. But when he is on the floor, everybody is playing like they're supposed to. And you look at players like MPJ, who's shooting 6 for 8 from 3. And then you look at players like KCP last season, who had outstanding seasons with the Nuggets overall, not just last season, but overall, he was great with the Nuggets because Nikola Jokic knew how to use him. Nikola Jokic has a special ability that not many players have, not many in basketball, at least. Some you can compare it to football, but he has the ability to raise all sinking ships, like all ships. He can raise every single player's ability around him. It's unlike anything. And again, I've seen it in football. You got players like Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. Those guys make teams better. Nikola Jokic is one of the first in the NBA. You could talk about, and sure, not one of the first. You can talk about Michael Jordan, LeBron James, but that's the kind of conversation you need to have around Nikola Jokic. He is that kind of player that makes every single person on the team better. And not only a little bit better, he'll take Aaron Gordon, who was, starting to go on the decline out in Florida, bring him here, and he is now a great perennial Nugget. Like, he is one of the best Nuggets of all time, the Nuggets greats. He is up there. And it's just Nikola Jokic's ability to do that. So how much longer does this need to go on where he is no longer looked at as voter fatigue? It's looked at as, how great can this guy continue to be every season? He improves every season. Stop letting the voter fatigue change people's minds. We've already seen it once with Joel Embiid. Nikola Jokic was robbed with Joel Embiid of an MVP. He should not be robbed again to a guy who's on a team that would win 60 games without him. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, great player, sure, but that team doesn't need him as much as the Nuggets need Nikola Jokic. And honestly, no other team needs a player as bad as the Nuggets need Nikola Jokic. You can talk about the Boston Celtics, Jason Tatum, sure, Jason Tatum is key to that Boston Celtics team. You talk about the Lakers, Luka Doncic, and LeBron James. Sure, they need them, but do they need them? The Lakers could trade them and then still build around the pieces that they already have. They don't need to bring in a guy who's going to go out and score. They don't need that as much. Nikola Jokic is the one player in this league that this team actually needs. That is a true MVP, most valuable player. When you break it down in the simplest of terms, when you're talking about most valuable player, Nikola Jokic is the most valuable player in the entire league. Now, guess what? It is time for another Mile High Milestone. We are bringing in one of our own, Mark Schler Stink, to talk about a really, we're talking about one of the worst losses in Denver Broncos history, the 1996 loss to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Mark, how are you?
I'm doing good. It's good to be with you. Sorry, I'm messing with my camera, but it is all good.
Oh, yeah, looks great. So, you know what? You have a unique perspective of this game because not only were you playing during the time, but you were on the field with the Broncos during that loss. Just a terrible, terrible loss. And I want to ask, one of the biggest things, you watch the video, you watch the actual game, you can see almost that the momentum switches multiple times. When did you think you noticed that the momentum switched from the Broncos being the heavy favorites to winning this game to, oh, shoot, the Jaguars might actually win this game?
Well, for me, in all honesty, I came home after we put the game plan in on Wednesday, and uh, we were eating dinner, and my wife was like, "What's wrong?" And I was like, "I hate our plan." And she's like, "Why?" And I go, "Because it's all check with me." And so I go, "They can take us out of our run game by doing certain things." And there's really nobody that effectively, oh, that's better. Sorry. There's nobody that could effectively take us out of our run game. And the game plan had us basically saying, hey, we're going to call this run, but if we get this, we're going to check to a pass, which is standard. It's pretty typical. People call it can it package or kill it package, or we call it check with me package. But I didn't like that because I like to have a certain amount of just call it and run it plays. Some organizations will call them tank plays, meaning this play is good against anything, regardless of what we get, we're going to run it. And what that affords you to do as an offense is it affords you not to play on your heels. It affords you to be the aggressor. And one of the things I always talk to with teams when I'm consulting with teams is like in the passing game, I want to take the passive out of pass protection. How can we do that? The way we call a game and the way we are the aggressors. And so to me, in that scenario, now it's good in small doses, it's great, but as an entirety of a game plan, um, to me, you're not dictating, you're being dictated to based upon what the defense gives you. And so I hated it going in. And I told my wife, like, this is not who we normally are, and I don't like it. And so, long story short, I think Terrell Davis averaged about 6.5 yards a carry, but I think he only carried the ball 14 times. And if you look back to that season, I bet you he was averaging about 26, 27 carries a game. And so, you run the ball at 6 yards a carry, 6.5 yards a carry, you should eviscerate a team. But they kept getting us to check out of the thing we wanted to do. And that was where my frustration lied. And I mean, I was upset obviously that we lost, but I was upset that we didn't adhere to what we always were, what our identity was. And if you go back to the following season in '97, we faced them in the playoffs and we hung over 300 yards rushing on them, because we stopped that tomfoolery, and actually did what we did.
Yeah.
So that was a real disappointing, frustrating, upsetting game, um, for me as a player. It was also the catalytic event in our life as a football team
Yeah.
that drove us to back-to-back championships. So I don't think we win back-to-back championships if we don't lose that game. Um, which it's always funny how things work out. And I always say sometimes you've got to have this God's eye lens, um, the view from 30,000 feet of what's going on and why that lesson was so incredibly valuable and what it led to, over the course of our career as a football team, over the course of our lifeblood as a football team.
Yeah, no, it was a boys to men moment for sure. So was that kind of the consensus in the locker room with the other guys that you didn't really feel like this game plan was going to work, or was that more of just like a personal like I don't agree with it, or like again was it
It
the
was-
whole team wasn't really clicking with it?
yeah, I think like I always think those things are great until they're not great, right? Like it's like it's great in it's great in the thought process, but when it's not working or when they're taking you out of what you do the best, um, and the other part of the game is not you're not executing as well, it gave them a chance to get their offense back on the field and to find some momentum. And and that's the complementary nature of football. And I think what a lot of people don't understand is, like, if you're, for instance, if your defense is struggling, okay, it is our responsibility as an offense not only to score, right? Because all you think about, and I'll go back to a game between Cincinnati and Washington early in the season. You probably remember it was like a 38-35 shootout, right? And Washington, Jaden Daniels throws it. I think it was Terry McLaurin, on the last plays of the game, 40 yards or whatever it was for a touchdown to win the game, right? To salt it away. And it's an incredible game. I get on
Yep.
TV the next day, and like there was not a punt in the game. um, Joe Burrow basically drove them to scores almost every time they had the ball, whether it was a touchdown or a field goal. And the guys I'm working with on television are like, "Oh my gosh, this defense sucks." Yeah, yes, they do. But your offense has got to not only score, but they also, when your defense is struggling the way they are, they also have to possess the ball. You know what I'm saying? And so there's this I think disconnect with people who look at it like it's just the defense or it's just the offense. No, I look at it, it's the football team. And so as an offense, like scoring is great, but if we can't stop the other team from scoring and answering that score, right away, well then we have to limit the number of times they get to touch the ball, right? And so there's a little bit more nuance to it for me. And so, going back to that game, I just wanted to possess the ball, right? I wanted to run. I wanted to do what we've always done. And knowing, I played defense in college. I understand what it's like when your offense goes three and out. I understand what it's like when you have two or three drives in a row where they're possessing the ball and the quarterback is scrambling and creating first downs, and they keep the clock rolling, they keep the momentum going. If your team comes out there and goes three and out and punts, or goes three and touchdown, like you're right back on the football field. Like you haven't even had time to sit down on the bench and go, okay, what are they doing to us and how are we going to make a plan to stop? You're just right back out there. And so like there's this give and take to it that I think the general fan doesn't think about, and that I think is really important. So um I don't know how many guys were thinking the way I was thinking. I just didn't like that it took us out of what we normally do.
Yeah. And that run game was crucial. And you were right. It was 14 rushes for Terrell Davis. And in those 14 rushes, he had 91 yards and a touchdown. So you look at that, he's obviously having success on the
Hmm.
limited amount of touches he's getting. And then you look at Elway in that game, 226 yards, 2 touchdowns, only 1 sack. The offense played the way that that your offense had played all season. The offense was great on that team, but when the possession isn't there, you're just scoring quickly. I mean, you look at the last touchdown, it was to Ed McCaffrey, and on the 2 minute drill almost, and it's just quick. It was quick,
Yeah.
quick, quick, and it wasn't any time to actually let the Jaguars offense sit on the bench. It was fast.
Right. Well, the biggest thing to me was, I'm sure Terrell Davis, and again, I don't have the number sitting in front of me, but I'm sure TD averaged 25, 26 carries a game. To only get it to our star player 14 times, even though he had success, right? But if you're averaging, that's at 14 for 91. I mean, it's got to be, close to over 6 yards a carry.
Yeah,
And you're only getting it 14 times. That to me is just a coaching mistake, a coaching blunder. And so, it's great that Elway had a good game, and it's great that we scored some touchdowns. But again, because of the way that game is going, at some point you've got to say, hey, listen, what we have to do is cool that offense, the opponent's offense, off. How are we going to do that best? The best way to cool them off is to disrupt their momentum by making them stand around on the sideline and just churn first downs, right. And so when you're sitting, and I've been there, like you're sitting, you feel like you're chomping at the bit. Hey man, we got some momentum. Let's go. Then the other team takes a methodical 9, 8 minute drive, 7.5 minute drive, and it ends in a touchdown. You exclamation point, bam. And now all of a sudden you go to commercial break, right? And then you have the kickoff and you go back to commercial break, and then you come back on the field, and the time that's actually elapsed in that 7.5 minute drive is about 25 minutes,
yeah,
right? Where you've been standing around as an offense. So it's the real time, because during that time there were like I said, you've got this long drive together. Then it's after you score, you're going right to the TV timeout. Then you kick the extra point, right back to a TV timeout. Then you kick off, it's right back to a TV timeout. Right, because
Yeah.
they got to get their breaks in. They got that. I mean, I'm in television now. I know how I didn't know how that worked as a player, but I get how it works now. And so, each one of those TV commercials breaks is 2.5 minutes, right? So right there, I just gave you, 7.5 minutes where that offense is standing on the sideline, and a seven and
Hmm.
a half minute drive with a couple of, it's not just 7.5 minutes, right? So
Yeah.
all of a sudden, like I said, you're 25 minutes, you're standing around as an offense, chomping the bit to get back on. It ruins some of your momentum. So all those things, you've got to take those things in consideration. Um, and I always just felt like we just didn't do a very good job of that.
Yeah, no, and I mean, it shows when you lose. There's only so much that you can look back on and say this is how we could have managed things better. But
Mhm.
with this loss, of course, bad loss, favorites to win the Super Bowl. It was probably not only, one of the worst losses, but one of the most important losses of the Broncos' entire franchise. Because as you said earlier, you win this one, you probably don't win the next two. This was important to go out and win Super Bowl 32 and Super Bowl 33. And it shows on that team that they were a little bit young, but they had the firepower, and then they made some moves and they really did what they had to. What do you think changed in that offseason that turned from losing to the Jaguars to going out there and then beating the Jaguars in the playoffs next season and then winning those two Super Bowls?
Just the sting of it. Like we were the number one seed, 13-3. We were by far the best team. We were the best team in the AFC, and there wasn't even a question. And the Patriots, was the Patriots that got throttled, yes, by Green Bay in that Super Bowl. That was Super Bowl 25. Would we have beaten Green Bay? Um, Probably, I think, but ultimately, we never got that opportunity. But that was always one of the things we talked about. I mean, we talked about it during practice. We talked about we'd be in the huddle in the fourth quarter and going, "Hey, man, you don't want to feel like you felt like against Jacksonville." That for 2 years, that was the thing that motivated us the most. And yeah, we made some small moves here and there, and and some big moves. I mean, we brought in Neil Smith at one point, and went back to get Gary Zimmerman for the first run because he had retired, and that was a big move for us. And um, we flip flopped after Zim retired. We brought Tony Jones back over to left tackle, and so we made some moves in that. A couple of receivers, Michael Dean Perry gone. We did some things as a football team, but the biggest thing that we did was we learned from our past transgressions, if you will, and basically use those past transgressions as motivation to never have that happen to us again.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. And I feel like that's one of the answers you'll get from not only football teams, but any sports team that loses at the highest level and then goes back and wins again. It's kind of that
Yeah.
same kind of, the sting of it, the pain, the, not wanting to be in that place again. It's the best kind of learning that you can do. And then you did it. You learned and you win and won two more Super Bowls. It was
Yeah.
great times.
It worked out. It worked out really well, But now you kind of look back and go, what would have been? Could we have won three? And I don't like people ask you that all the time. I never look back that way because unless people ask me to, and I go, and no, because that first loss was so pivotal in the direction of our football team moving forward and rectifying it. So I don't think we. Yeah, even if we went on to win that Super Bowl 25, if we go on through the run through the AFC because we'd have crushed everybody, um, and and beat Green Bay in that Super Bowl, would we have gotten back to the next one? Would we have won the next two? I don't think we would have. So like that lesson was so valuable and so imperative in the growth and the maturity of our football team.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. All right. Well, thank you, Mark. It's always a pleasure.
You
And
got it.
we'll be talking to you soon.
You got it, man. Take care.
You
Good to
too.
see you.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for your rundown. I'll be back with you guys again tomorrow, filling in for Richie. We got some more fun things to talk about. And tomorrow is the season opener for the Rockies. So we got a lot of fun things to look at. Until then, y'all have a great rest of your day. Bye, guys.
I do what I love.